Hello students, I'm Dr. YVENUGOPAL, Professor of Law. In this video, we study about judicial review and its judicious spark. Means the judicious spark in the judicial review. What kind of spark we have to study? We shall make a study. Actually, this judicial activism and judicial review can be compared and contrasted. Judicial activism aims at the limited government. That means by its checking, supervision, guidance, directions, the limited government will be formulated by the judicial activism. Whereas by judicial review, good governance will be provided by clarification of ideals, spirit of constitution, the provisions of constitution by the judicial review. In judicial activism, there will be self-restraint. That means it has its own boundary. While taking any action or while taking any decision, the judiciary will set its own boundary, and it imposes its own restraint, self-restraint. It doesn't go beyond its power. Whereas in judicial review, there will not be such type of restrictions because the occasion demands like that. Excepting under two conditions. Those two conditions, number one, if there is any legislation made by legislature, yes, judiciary should not interfere in such and such matters. It should not touch upon the administrative issues or the welfare schemes of the government. Like that, if there is any such type of restriction or any legislation passed by the legislature, by the parliament, then it will not touch upon. And in another issue is rules and regulations formulated by the judiciary itself. Sometimes judiciary will make its own boundary, rules and regulations. We should not touch upon, for example, we should not touch upon service matters of the government employees. Let it be at the pure discretion of the government executive body. Sometimes like that. So, accepting these two conditions, legislation by the legislature and rules and regulations are formulated by the very judiciary, the judicial review has its an extensive role. And now we shall have an idea about rationale. What is the rationale behind this judicial review? To err is human. In the same way, same is the case with judiciary also. Same is the case with the judges also. They are also human beings. Sometimes they too may commit some mistake, or they too may take some decision which is not quite relevant at that time. Sometimes it may be subject to change because time is a wealth of change. Change is wealth of time, I can say. As Rabindranath Tagore says, change is the wealth of time, he says. Like that, sometimes the law will be subject to change according to the situations, according to the times, different factors. So, judicial review it is a great opportunity for the judiciary to check, to correct, to modify and formulate a new law. So judiciary is nothing but a great opportunity for the judiciary to modify, to review once again whether there is any mistake, any drawback, any bottleneck. So that is the rationale behind judiciary, rationale behind judiciary. And now we shall come to Articles 137, 31b, which have a lot of focus on judicial review. Article 137 empowers the Supreme Court to review its own decisions. Decided cases, even decided cases can be reviewed by the Supreme Court, the apex court. For example, Sabarimala issue. It was already decided by the Supreme Court. Because it is a traditional issue, some traditionalists once again they made a lot of agitation. They wanted the Supreme Court to review once again. Same is the case with triple talaq also. Once, when it was decided by the apex court, that there was a lot of furore in the parliament by the traditionalists. So here in the case of Sabarimala issue, once again the Supreme Court reviewed it, studied it, of course established. So in the review, the same verdict may be established or it may be revised. Review doesn't mean that the law should be changed. The verdict must be changed. It may be established as it was before, or it may be changed. So nowhere, anyway, one thing, as I told you earlier, nowhere this judicial review, this phrase, was referred to, mentioned in the entire Indian Constitution. But there is a lot of scope for judicial review with respect to some articles. So, in accordance with the Article 31B, 131, 132, 134, 227, 245, 251 to 254, these articles will have a lot of focus on the power of judicial review by judiciary. Now we shall come to a very interesting aspect. There is Article 31B, which has been inserted in Schedule 9, 9th Schedule, by the First Amendment Act of 1951. Actually, the issues were at that time land reforms and the abolition of Jamindari system, but there was a great failure on the grounds of fundamental rights, Article 14, 15, 16 and 21. They said that they argued that the fundamental rights is the basic structure of the Constitution, so they should not be violated. Even the judiciary should not interfere. It is beyond the judiciary. So it was mentioned like that there in that amendment. But this judicial review has been subjected to a thorough change, a drastic change, a sea change, with the advent of IAR Koilu's case versus Tamil Nadu, government of Tamil Nadu. In that case, in 2007, in that case, the judiciary declared very clearly that judicial review is also the basic structure of the Constitution. When it is the basic structure, judiciary has every power to review any law, any order, any rule. So we have the power to review it. And that with retrospective effect, it has made a judgment, wonderful judgment. With retrospective means with April 1973, with effect from that. So it was a very controversial, very dynamic judgment at that time. And another example for this judicial review, there is Indira Gandhi versus Rajnarayan case. In that case also, Article 230, 329 was inserted there. Class 4, I think. So in that case, what has happened? Indira Gandhi, when she was the Prime Minister at that time, the Parliament made an amendment. In that amendment was made just with some wrong intention of escaping her prosecution from illicit, wrong, corrupt electoral practices. She tried her best. But that was not at all accepted. The judiciary, Allahabad court, first rejected it. And finally, the apex court also condemned it because it is against the basic structure of the Constitution. So why I have referred to these most fundamental, striking amendments of the Constitution? The reason is the specific genesis, or we can say the specific judicial review can be traced out, discernible from these amendments of the Constitution. Therein lies the real judicial review, and it is a great challenge to the judiciary. And the scope of this judicial review can also be traced out in judge-made laws. For example, judgment laws, these transgender rights of the transgender in the case of rights of transgender cases, adultery law, adultery verdict established released recently, and triple talak. Though the law was not made, they are treated to be precedents, judgment laws, and sometimes the judiciary can also pave the way for a legislative laws like Nirbhaya Act. After thorough inquiry and thorough prosecution regarding that case, Nirbhaya Act was formulated by the legislature. So the judicial review will also pave the way for a legislative law apart from the judgment law. So in conclusion, I would like to say that the judicial review's real judicious spark lies in three issues, especially. Number one, amending power. The parliament has no amending power, but it has the power to amend without touching the basic structure of the constitution. In Minerva Mills case also, it was established very clearly that it is the constitution that is supreme and not the parliament. So that has been established by the judicial review. So in case of amendment of the constitution, in case of judgment laws, and in case of controversial issues, and in case of decided cases, the real judicious spark of the judicial review will lie. This is what I would like to say about the real spark of judicial review, and the full perspective, the broader perspective of judicial review, we can discuss in the third part of this same topic. Thank you for watching. Nice.